Hi, I'll be your new professor for this session. My name is Dr. Thomas Simon. I live in Bloomington, Indiana, and I'm a professor, researcher, and author. My education and training started back in 1978. I went to school at the University of Michigan where I got my Bachelor's of Science degree in biology. I went to school then at the University of Wisconsin in La Crosse for my master's degree, also in biology, where I worked on the Mississippi River and studied fish. I continued to work at US EPA, and after a little while I started to miss school and decided to go back for my PhD. I decided to attend at the University of Illinois in Chicago, but I also got a chance to take courses at the University of Chicago. My PhD is in biology, and I studied ecology and evolution and environmental science with emphasis on ichthyology and aquatic ecology. My background includes a variety of work experiences. My very first job was at the University of Michigan, where I worked for the Great Lakes Research Division as a consultant. After a while there, I studied larval fish, and I got to work on a number of really interesting projects that dealt with power plants and yellow perch population dynamics. After graduating, I attended school in Wisconsin, and my real first job was with a consulting company called EA Science and Technology in Northbrook, Illinois. I worked there for 2 years and did power plant studies and lots of field work where I traveled all over the country sampling fish, macroinvertebrates, and virtually anything aquatic. I got a chance to set up my own personal consulting company that I named Large Rivers Research Station. This work gave me the opportunity to conduct research on early life stages of fishes and also to do natural history research on freshwater fish in North America. My most recent opportunity has been with a company named Stantec. Stantec is an international company that's dedicated to doing environmental and ecological restoration. A couple of volunteer opportunities I had. I worked as a research associate for the Field Museum of Natural History in Chicago. I worked in the Division of Fishes for 4 years where I processed fish from North America. And I also worked as an unpaid director for the Indiana Biological Survey, which is a 501c3 not-for-profit public charity that is dedicated to training students on field and laboratory techniques. So how did I actually pay the bills? I started in 1985 working for the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency in Region 5. I was an aquatic biologist in the Central Regional Laboratory where I ran toxicity tests and raised fish in the aquaculture facility, and I conducted field surveys in the 6 Great Lakes states and 26 Native American nations. For my work, I was recognized as a national expert in biological sustainability and criteria. My work involved development of environmental indicators and ecological health. I transferred over to our water division and worked as an environmental manager and water quality standards branch coordinator. My responsibilities were with the state of Ohio and the Ohio River Valley Water Sanitation Commission. I was able to work in the enforcement branch where I was able to be an expert witness for EPA, and I was decorated with 3 congressional bronze medals for my work in the Grand Calumet River and the Meigs mine collapse in southeastern Ohio. I finished my career at EPA after 14 years in the watershed non-point source branch. I was responsible for developing biological indicators for the states of Minnesota and Indiana. I also conducted complex multidisciplinary studies of pollution impacts from point source discharges throughout the 6 Great Lakes states. I left EPA and went to the U.S. Department of the Interior, U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service in 1998 as a senior contaminants biologist in the Bloomington Field Office. I worked in the Natural Resource Damage Assessment, or NRDA group, where I conducted surveys and studies of Superfund, Great Lakes areas of concern, and hazardous waste sites. I was the lead administrative trustee for the NRDA in the Fish Creek case. I left government service in 2010 after 25 years of service. So what about my teaching experience? Well, I have over 25 years of experience. I started teaching while I was still working at EPA for Indiana University at their Northwest campus in the biology department. I taught there for 6 years and went to Purdue University at their North Central campus to teach aquatic courses, natural resource management courses, and environmental indicator courses. I taught for 6 years there and then was asked to teach at main campus in West Lafayette. After moving in 1998 to Bloomington, I began teaching at Indiana State University and at Indiana University in the School of Health, Physical Education, and Recreation, or HYPER. That school is now known as our School of Public Health. Since my retirement from federal service in 2009, I've taught full-time at Indiana University in our School of Public and Environmental Affairs. I also teach at The Ohio State University for the F.T. Stone Laboratory on Gibraltar Island, which is known as the Lake Erie Island Campus. The campus is situated on South Bass Island at Put-in-Bay. There I direct student research and teach ichthyology. I'm also a senior research scientist at Indiana State University, where I conduct my grant research on ecological indicators, ecological health, and the natural history of North American freshwater fish and crayfish. My research program is primarily in the Great Lakes. Most of my work has been conducted in Lake Michigan along its southern shore, in the Indiana Dunes National Lakeshore. Also, I've worked in the western basin of Lake Erie at the Stone Lab. My work is focused on North American freshwater fish and crayfish, with my primary research dealing with environmental indicators. My work is focused mostly on ecological health and the chemical, physical, and biological integrity of surface waters. I've worked all over eastern North America, primarily in the Great Lakes region, but I've done work in Kansas, Alabama, Tennessee, Florida, to name a few of the states. I look forward to working with you this semester. Now that you know a little bit about me, I hope that you will make it a point to let me get to know you. I wish you well this semester and continued success in the pursuit of your academic degree. My environmental research has been mostly looking at the effects of different land use types on fish and aquatic life. Some of the work that I've done is really focused on ecological health. As part of that process, we've been evaluating some of the physical, chemical, and biological integrity aspects of communities, and then trying to make sense of what ecological health might look like. I get to work with a lot of students, and a lot of the undergraduate students have really had a chance to get out in the field with me, and we have a lot of fun out in the field. Part of the ability to stay current and also to make a difference, I believe, in my research has been the opportunity to work in different states and in different watersheds. I've spent a lot of time in the Great Lakes states, and including most of the eastern portions of the Great Lakes going up into the Gulf of Maine. I have also spent quite a bit of time in the panhandle of Florida and also in Alabama, working in the Choctawhatchee, the Escambia, and also the Apalachicola watersheds. Maybe one of the earliest work I've done was in Kansas, working on the Little Kansas River and evaluating some of the streams out there as far as their integrity around the Wichita area. My fish research has recently focused on one of the invasive species known as the round goby. The round goby is from the Black and Caspian Seas in Eastern Europe. It is an interesting species in that it has now invaded literally every one of the Great Lakes. It's a fish that gets to be about maybe 8 inches long in its maximum size in its native territory, but in the Great Lakes it only reaches sizes of between 4 to 6 inches. It is a very aggressive little fish in that it basically is able to eliminate all of the native species from the bottom of the lake. It has now become the dominant food source of most predator fishes in the Great Lakes, and also has eliminated most of the native species. Part of my studies have been at the Indiana Dunes National Lakeshore, which is shown up at the upper right-hand corner of the screen. and also at Gibraltar Island in Lake Erie, which is right at the Canadian border of the United States and Canada. The ideas that we have formulated and put together has been a result of working with undergraduate students and graduate students, and one of the benefits of working at Ohio State and being at the Franz Theodore Stone Laboratory has been the opportunity to use the facilities and the equipment that they have there. It's been a great 5 years that I've spent working at that location. One of the things that my research has led to has been the publication of a field guide for the fishes of Indiana. This is the first time this type of publication has ever been done for the state, even though there's been many great ichthyologists that have worked in the state of Indiana over the century. But I have been fortunate, and I was the one that got to do the field guide. Lastly, my crayfish research has focused mostly on primary burrowing crayfish, although I've done quite a bit of work with aquatic species. I know most people think that crayfish are single species and most of them are only found in water, but I can tell you that there's basically 3 different kinds of crayfish, all that depend upon their burrowing habits. The kind I study are actually terrestrial crayfish, and if you were to put them in water, they would actually drown. The crayfish that's shown on the left of the screen is a species that actually I got to describe and name. It's called the painted hand mudbug, which is Cambarus polychromatus. The picture in the upper right-hand corner is a picture of their home. It's a mud chimney that's basically built by them carrying mud out of the ground with their tails and making a mound. It kind of resembles a small mud chimney. It's used for ventilation, and it's also capped sometimes in order to keep moisture out. The crayfish that's shown at the bottom is what we would call a secondary or tertiary burrower, meaning that they either are fully reliant on water as a tertiary burrower or could leave the water and actually construct a burrow that they would, say, bury into the side of a bank for the winter. A lot of my work has been capturing crayfish using nets and different kinds of equipment, things that we've modified and made up ourselves. One of the things maybe I'm most famous for is using a toilet plunger in order to get crayfish out of the ground. But bottom line is we use whatever tools we need to in order to excavate them and get them out of the ground. We measure them, identify them, look at what sex they are, see how healthy they are, and then either we release them or we preserve them for later analysis. So now you know a little bit about the work I do, and hopefully based on that information you'll enjoy working with me in the future. I look forward to getting to know you, and I look forward to sharing some of the things that I've seen out in the field together. Best wishes.